typical morning. Before your feet have even touched the floor, your phone is already planning your day, suggesting the quickest route, drafting the opening of your assignment, cueing a playlist for your mood, and even telling you how to reply to a message you're nervous to send. You scroll through 100 people's lives before you've brushed your teeth. You can connect with anyone, anywhere, at any time. On the surface, it's incredible. We live with tools our grandparents couldn't have imagined. Tools that promise to make us more efficient, more informed, more connected, and maybe even more successful. But underneath all of this progress, there is a hidden question. What is all of this becoming costing us? And is it worth it? Answering this question for me began some years ago when I was having coffee with a dear friend of mine, and these words slipped out that I didn't even know I was ready to say. I've lost myself in the living of my life. How does somebody get to 40 years old and not know who she really is? You see, I'm the eldest daughter in an immigrant family, and from a very young age, I was taught to be the responsible one, the helpful one, the one who didn't make waves. For years, I tried to be the perfect daughter and friend, and then wife and mother, wearing many different masks, trying to meet the expectations of others, convinced if only I could be everything for everyone, I would be loved, accepted, and happy. On the outside, my life looked perfect. On the inside, I was quietly falling apart. I was constantly exhausted, saying yes, when something inside me whispered no. I would look at my very full life, family, home, accomplishments, and feel an ache I couldn't explain, as if I were watching someone else's story. Over time, that ache turned into a deeper kind of loneliness, not only feeling lonely with others, but feeling disconnected from myself. That day in the cafe, the truth finally broke through. I had become so focused on who I thought I should be that I no longer knew who I really was. I had lost my inner compass, the quiet voice inside me that told me what was right for me. And the price was my happiness. I then understood this truth. You cannot live a happy life unless you are living your life. So at first I thought that this was my own personal crisis, something that I needed to work through. But the more I pay attention how all of us are living with our phones and AI, I realize something unsettling. What happened to me? Outsourcing my life to the expectations of others is now happening at a cultural level. Only now, we are outsourcing ourselves to technology. We live in a world that is more connected than ever before, and yet many of us have never felt more disconnected from ourselves. A world that is constantly telling us who to be, what to think, and what success should mean, all curated by algorithms that are tracking our every movement. Our default is to reach for our phone to see what everybody else thinks before we stop and ask, what do I think? And we soothe our uncomfortable emotions with another post, another video, another notification. Current research on digital life shows trends many of us feel every day. Heavier social media use is tied to more anxiety, comparison, and confusion about who we are. Attention spans are shrinking as apps train us to expect something new every few seconds. And AI is now writing our essays, messages, and even our apologies, becoming the always available friend and therapist for conversations that used to belong to real people. So, in this environment, what does authenticity even mean? Once, being authentic meant inner alignment, a quiet balance between what we feel, believe, and do. Now, in a culture of constant display, authenticity often becomes something that we perform online, where we start making choices not because they're right for us, but because they're clickable, relatable, and admired. If we zoom out, a pattern appears. In our pursuit of ease, efficacy, convenience, and visibility, we are beginning to allow machines to do the very things that make us human. Thinking, creating, connecting, and even feeling. And when we gradually hand over so much of ourselves, there is a deeper cost. Who we are becoming, as our sense of identity and worth is being shaped from the outside in instead of the inside out. So the real question becomes, in an age when we are being shaped by our use of AI and digital technologies, how do we reclaim our authentic selves so that our happiness and our humanity are not outsourced to machines? The idea is simple. We must rebuild our inner compass so that technology serves our humanity instead of stealthily replacing it. It's about learning to stay rooted in ourselves while living inside a technological vortex. Rebuilding my inner compass took years of reflection and healing. And today, the steps I took align with a research-based framework put forth by Napier and colleagues. At its core, Life Crafting offers 5 steps to rebuilding the very thing many of us have lost in the digital age, an inner compass. Researchers define the authentic inner compass as the internal striving to know what we value. It's the steady sense of direction inside of us, that intuitive yes that tells us that this is right for me, that isn't based on likes or visibility, but on meaning. In a world that never stops talking to us, when was the last time that you could hear that inner voice? Because each step in the model can help bring you into greater alignment with yourself. Here is what rebuilding that inner compass looked like in my life. According to the model, the first shift can come from clarifying our values. When I became clear about what truly mattered to me, I strengthened my ability to think for myself rather than adopt the values handed to me by society. My values became a filter, helping me to pause, reflect, and make decisions that felt genuinely right for me. Next is answering the question, what activities make you feel most alive, even when no one is watching? I came to discover that my intrinsic interests were reading, writing, spending time in nature, and meditation. Now, these weren't popular, but they helped me to connect with my inherent happiness that doesn't need a screen to exist. When we shape our lives around our interests instead of what's trending, we feel more engaged, present, and joyful, not because life is perfect, but because we feel like we're creating our life. The third step is about purposeful connection. This is how we show up in our relationships and contribute to the world. I began to engage with presence rather than performance, having real face-to-face conversations where I felt fully seen and connected, even when it was imperfect, unpleasant, and inconvenient. Showing up as the real me helped me to let go of superficial friendships and instead find others who share my same values and interests. Over time, I began to see my past, present, and future as one meaningful story. This step is about building a coherent life narrative. So instead of seeing my earlier years as failures, I began to understand them as formative. Wearing masks taught me how painful it is to live disconnected from yourself. And that regret gave me deep compassion for those who feel lost in their own lives. What once felt like a story of failure became a story of waking up. This step helped me to reclaim my sense of identity and meaning, no longer allowing culture, algorithms, or anyone else to tell me what my life means, but defining that meaning for myself. And lastly is setting self-concordant goals. This is where we allow our goals to be shaped from within rather than by expectation. I began to question my motives behind my goals. Were the things that I wanted to achieve for me, or were they things that society reveres and respects? Because I couldn't continue to sacrifice my happiness to please others so that I would be loved and accepted. This is also where AI and technology found their proper place as tools that I select to support and not defer the attainment of my goals. So I needed to set boundaries around my attention by determining when and why I engage and with whom, deciding what I'm doing on my phone before I open it, and checking messages and emails for a set amount of time with notifications off. When I look back at what these 5 shifts gave me, I wasn't just improving my habits. I was protecting my ability to think, create, connect, and feel, guided by my intuition, imagination, and inner knowing. This is how we stay human in the age of AI, not by going back or resisting technology, but by intentionally, consciously deciding how we use and develop these very powerful human traits. So the real question is not whether technology will keep advancing. It will. The question is, who do we choose to become as it does? For we are at a crossroads moment in time, and if we are not careful, we will do more than just outsource our tasks. We will slowly surrender something far more precious: our autonomy, agency, and the authorship of our lives, the ability to think and feel for ourselves, to know what matters to us, and to live a life that is truly our own. That is too high a price. For AI can replicate performance, but it cannot embody presence. It can mimic emotion, but it cannot truly feel or ever know joy. Our inner compass is how we navigate within this rising digital current by making time to align with the voice inside that is always guiding us towards our happiest and most authentic life. So before we rush off to optimize the next task, I'd like to slow us down for just one last moment and ask ourselves, where have you handed over your life to expectation, online or offline? Where have you outsourced your voice, your worth, your joy to what others expect or what your screen suggests? And what if your typical morning began with you connecting with yourself first before checking in on everyone else on your phone? Because if we choose to lead from within, we can thrive in this ever-changing, tech-driven world and also remain fully, deeply, and beautifully human. Thank you.